Gawel doing our theme song podcast. We're very creative in our theme songs. My name is Steve Shoney. I'm the city manager for the city of Upper Arlington, and I am here with my co-host,
Darren Schulman, city attorney. And I'm glad that you said co-host, because my dad was like, since when did you get demoted to sidekick?
You know, it is a little bit of a thing. I'm trying to be careful. I can't help it if our listeners call you my sidekick. It just is how it works.
I just want to clarify. I revel in my sidekickness, but just it's nice to get promoted sometimes.
Yeah, and we just for the record, listeners, just to make you a little bit more comfortable, we are going to stay with the sweaters. We are not going to Batman and Robin style outfits, particularly not the 60s version of Batman and Robin.
Adam West, you're not going to
go there. We're not going there. But speaking of our uniform, I do have a request for our listeners. I don't think this made it on the podcast, but our famed red sweaters.
Oh, yeah.
They're showing a little wear.
In the same spot.
In the same spot. So we could use a little help from our listeners. Now, we've done a quick repair on the sweaters that we have.
If you have sweaters that are of the Mr. Rogers style that you're not using or don't want, we would accept those donations.
Yeah, and mine's in an XL.
I'll probably an XL by now, too.
Yeah.
I've been eating.
I wasn't gonna say.
Thank you for giving me a chance to out myself as eating too much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. Darren's like, no, I just need a medium.
Medium, small, medium.
Yeah, I'm going for this medium look. I've been playing basketball on Fridays, and so it has to be of a de minimis value. Because we cannot accept gifts above a de minimis value, but if you got an extra cardigan sitting around that you think we ought to rock for the podcast, bring it on in, and
we'll show up on the picture.
It might, depending on how well it fits Darren. So that's our old business. Our new business for today is we have a guest with us. We have Chad Gibson. Chad is our Community Development Director, the director of our Community Development Department. Welcome, Chad.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you including me in this legendary podcast.
So Chad is, I think, going to end up being a regular guest because Chad's material is something that a lot of people care about. It gets a lot of attention. We have bandied about calling this segment "Everybody Hates Chad" because Chad gets Chad takes a lot of slings and arrows from residents who are angry. And the other title that we had for this series is I want to have a say about what my neighbor's property looks like, and that's a good thing in some ways because our residents care a lot about how our community looks. They care about the feel of our community. And so one of the things we want to do, one of the kind of things we want to talk about is neighborhood compatibility. So when somebody's coming in and they're thinking about building a new house, or they bought a property and they're thinking about tearing down a house and building a new one or adding onto a property, there's a lot of rules that go with that. And we want to talk to Chad about that today, and that's going to be the main subject of our segment today.
So a little over a decade ago, there was sort of a trend in the United States on the construction of McMansions. And those were houses that were very obviously out of place and out of scale with the surrounding neighborhood. Because Upper Arlington is such a desirable, wonderful place to live, we are constantly having people come in and want to be a part of our community. And so we have an unbelievable level of reinvestment. And so we wanted to make sure that we had an ordinance in place to ensure that the outliers, we had some sort of regulation in place to make sure that any new home would respect the established neighborhood, but also welcome this reinvestment. So it's sort of a balancing act, and our regulation over the years has evolved, and I think we're still trying to find the sweet spot of that regulation. You've got to kind of identify property rights, but at the same time have some reasonable common sense regulations that make sense for our community.
So what kind of stuff do you say no to?
We would say in a neighborhood where you have all one-story homes, if someone came in with a 3-story Georgian home that was 35 feet and all the other homes in the area were 15 feet tall, we would say, hey, this doesn't seem to blend in with the established neighborhood character. Can we go back and make some design changes that better reflect the established fabric of that neighborhood? And one of the great things that our ordinance has, it allows us to use a professional, independent, third-party architect to run these designs by to get off the cuff feedback, and then we can assemble that and respond.
So one of the reasons I love this podcast is it gives us an opportunity to kind of humanize the staff, that people just want to say Chad Gibson's doing this to me personally because he's just a bad dude. And this is why this segment is called Everybody Hates Chad. And I think your answer describes exactly why, because you are striking a balance between development interests and the interests of the neighborhood. And so the reason everyone hates you is because if you allow development to go, then the neighbors hate you. If you do something for the neighbors, then the developed person hates you. So I think if you're doing a good job, everyone unfortunately does hate you.
I think that's right on cue. And I've had just as many tense meetings with developers that I have with residents. So it is a very challenging issue to get exactly right and to achieve that balance. Zoning is in place to protect property values, but there's also the other side of making sure that there's a balance between not being too strict, but also allowing some revitalization of your community. A lot of these homes that are getting replaced are in very, very poor condition. And so in some cases, they've reached their end of their useful life. And so developers are coming in. They're not bullying any residents. They're getting typically reached out to by the property owners. And so it's a win-win for those folks.
Chad, I think part of what is important to let folks understand too is, this is an evolving process for us too. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you've done over the last year and what you're getting ready to kind of roll out? I think we're rolling that out. By the time this podcast comes out, I think we'll have the new guidelines that you're using for making your recommendations to the Board of Zoning and Planning. You want to talk a little bit about kind of the real core of what those changes are that you're making?
Absolutely. Excuse me. We heard from a number of folks in the community that they were concerned with the level of reinvestment going on and the size and the scale of some of the new homes. And so we took that feedback and we ended up coordinating a series of focus groups. We hired an outside consultant to facilitate those groups. We had folks from all different sides, from the different neighborhoods to the building industry, all across the board. And so we had a really, really nice turnout, and that consultant summarized all of that feedback from all of those focus groups into a memo. And that memo is going to inform what we think is going to, at the very least, be a policy to accompany our existing neighborhood compatibility ordinance. And it's going to do things like enhance notification. It's going to do things like make our analysis more objective instead of subjective. So
it won't be Chad Gibson did this to me.
That's right. And it's tough to plug in a house into a formula and see what spits out, but it's been a really, really nice.
So what's it going to do on height? That's the one that everybody.
Yes, absolutely. We're taking into account the means and the medians of home heights in the area, and we're requiring second floor step backs in certain cases. In certain neighborhoods like the Ridge, we have reduced the maximum height from 35 feet to 28 feet to recognize the established network and character of homes that are there. So those are just a few of the many different tools that we now have in our toolbox to help address this issue.
So, and just to be clear, you said formulas are hard, but someone who reads this new document will have a better idea of what they can do and still be compatible without having to rely on you to tell them.
That's exactly right. We're going to have diagrams and formulas in the actual policy so that someone coming in to Upper Arlington from out of town is going to know exactly what they can do with a house.
So what grade level of math would you need a passing grade in to be able to figure out our height limits?
I'll say fifth.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a fifth grader, so I think this is that's right on.
So she if you sat her down and you gave her a word problem and said, a train is moving 85 miles an hour from St. Louis to a house on Dorchester, and the house has these qualities, is the house compatible, that she would be able to figure that out?
I think she would.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. All right, that's what we're getting to. So what is so how long have you worked for the city?
This is my 19th year here.
Wait, what?
Yeah, 19.
Oh, man.
Did you start as an intern?
No, I was actually at the city of Dublin for 8 years before that.
Dude, you look like really young for your age, I guess, man. It's a compliment in a backwards kind of way.
I appreciate that.
Or we look old.
We look old for yeah.
I appreciate that.
So what's the absolute craziest thing over the years you've had anybody propose?
I've got some really interesting calls that I've received over the years. At one point, I had a resident complain about a road being too bumpy, and so I recognized that the road was on our capital improvements plan to be replaced. The road was replaced, and then I got a call from that same individual saying the road was too smooth and that the cars were now going too fast because it was too smooth. So again, sometimes as a regulator, it's
everyone
tough.
hates Chad, man.
It's tough. It's really tough to make everybody
The pro
happy.
bumpy road people hate
That's
Chad.
right.
The pro smooth road people hate Chad.
I got a call one time from a woman that lived up on Case Road, and she was upset about airplane noise. Her backyard was literally on the tarmac of the Ohio State University airport. So again, trying to be empathetic.
And Case Road's not us.
It's not even in Upper Arlington.
That's the best part of the story you left out.
I was just like, hold on just a second.
Wrong city.
Unless I missed something.
So again, you try to be empathetic and helpful, but in certain instances, it's challenging.
Chad, I don't know if this is pivoting to Steve's other subject, and you can kick me if you want to, but if my neighbor is doing something with their property that makes him mad, like, I don't know, they painted ugly or they don't mow their lawn, or name a better example,
Sure.
Do I have any rights to do anything about it, or is it just too bad, dude?
Absolutely. I always recommend that you call the development department. We have a wonderful team of experienced folks that can help you with any number of issues. Our property maintenance officer is used to these sorts of issues. You know, sometimes there are extenuating circumstances. Someone could have a health issue or are out of the country, and they've fallen behind on their property maintenance. And so we have tools at our disposal that can facilitate compliance and make the neighborhood more livable. So never hesitate to call our department and ask us if you have a concern about your neighborhood.
And on the theme of everyone hates Chad, but they shouldn't, that process, they are very diligent. They work with our office, city attorney's office. It is a long process sometimes, and people get frustrated. It's not like Chad can go in there and like personally fix their driveway. You know, there's a process. It takes time. So when you keep calling him and asking where it is, I promise you, he is diligently working on it.
Absolutely. We always try to get voluntary compliance from the property owner. And in some instances, rare instances, we don't get that. And so there is that legal process, and it does take time. We try to give updates whenever feasible to do so, but our code enforcement officers out there really trying to keep the community looking good and being fair and equitable to everybody in town.
So is there anything you can do if my neighbor's just snaps?
Dude, did you just...
do you want to take advantage of the fact that this is taped and you can use the dump button?
No, I'm flummoxed. Do you dump it or bleep it, Brian? He doesn't. Let it play.
Let it ride.
It's not on the FCC, so.
No, you're gonna bleep that.
So it's funny you bring that up.
It is funny that he brought that up, but yes.
I'm lucky I have great neighbors, but we do get in the middle of a lot of neighbor disputes. COVID did not help that.
Yeah.
People are home more, and there have been certain instances where we've offered mediation through the city attorney's office to try to get some peace in the neighborhood. I mean, think about it. You come home every day to your home, and you have this negative issue that's kind of hanging over your head. So we try to be empathetic and solve problems. But yeah, we have a lot of those, unfortunately, out there in the community.
I will add an unsolicited plug too. If you're in one of these situations and either Chad's people or we reach out to you and offer mediation, I strongly recommend you take it, because the reason we're offering is there's probably not much else we can do. They might not be violating any code, and so mediation might help you resolve those issues. But if you think you're just so mad at them and you say no to us, you might be disappointed, because that might be the end of that. We can't help you, if you're neighbors and you don't get along usually, but we can help you work together to figure it out.
Yeah, we never want it to get to a point where the police have to get involved. And unfortunately, that's happened a few times as well over the years.
So I just want to be really clear about something that just happened. I'm not the one who's immature and like drops things that Brian has to delete. It's that I do it because Darren's so immature that I know I'm going to get a complete and absolute laugh out of Darren by doing it. So I want to take responsibility away for that, and I'm going to put it on
me.
Put it on Darren that I will stop doing it when
I stop reacting to
when
it.
you stop reacting with complete and absolute shock.
I have to tell you, Stephen, you can cut this or leave it in. I used to have like live radio show in Delaware, and so I'm used to like there's a dump button, but not really. And so whenever you say something like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get So I will continue to react.
So I will do it until
I will own somehow victim shaming. I will own the fact that you are cursing because of me. I will accept that.
That's right. It is your fault. I'm somehow gaslighting you. It's wrong that Steve's doing that, but somehow he makes me feel like it's wrong.
It's my fault. I'm sorry, listeners, for making Steve do that.
All right. I do want to have you come back on and talk at more length about the process for a neighbor when there's something happening in their neighborhood and they want to get involved. Because I think what we did today, I feel like at some level is identify kind of what are those issues where you can get involved, where we have some level of say. But I do want to come back and have you talk about process.
So in terms of everyone hates Chad, they might hate you because they're just following the existing zoning code, and there's really nothing you can do. If it meets all the height specs, the setbacks, everything, you have to say yes.
Yeah.
You're letting it happen because they're doing what the code allows them to do.
That's exactly right. I mean, there are some instances with different applications where the code says I must approve it if certain criteria are met, and that happens on a daily basis, really.
Really, Darren, what you're saying is don't hate the player, hate the game.
Hate the game. You know what, though? I'm okay with them hating Chad.
Chad, when you get to know him, he's a pretty likable guy, and it really is that you're hating the game, and you look, when you live in a dense environment, there's going to be conflicts, and the person who's got to manage those conflicts is going to catch a little bit of shade, right? And
I dislike him around because he's probably the only one disliked more than the city attorney, so he's like my buffer on the ranking scale.
And all I know is you cannot believe everything you read on the Facebook discussion forum.
What?
Okay.
But actually, here's what I found on the discussion forum. The first post, if it's one that's going to stir controversy, is probably not the one to believe. You got to go down, wait probably about 10 posts, and somebody will finally get frustrated and say, okay, enough. Here's what the facts are. Cut it out. And generally, that's how it flows. I promise that's not any of us on our burner accounts. As you said earlier, we have, and I don't have a burner account. We do have really smart, really well-educated members of this community who care about getting the facts out and making sure that everybody's well-informed. And we've got some people who just like to stir stuff up.
And you can actually contact people of the city. We will get back to you if you have questions. So, if you're, why does the city do this? You can actually ask.
Yeah.
Crazy idea, right?
Crazy.
Don't ask Facebook and get weird information. Call Chad; he'll tell you.
Well, I mean, Facebook is the source of all truth.
Isn't it Meta now or something?
Oh, it is Meta. It is Meta.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know. It somehow, I don't know what it means.
Not our target demographic.
So we are not going to have. We are not going to succeed in explaining the metaverse.
No.
But what we are gonna succeed is with our next guest, we're gonna turn and start talking about the library.
Podcast. We're gonna have a podcast. Yeah.
Turn the music down. Turn the music down. Shh. You know why? You know why we need to be quiet? Why do we need to be quiet there?
Because we're in the library.
We're not actually in the library, but we do have our head librarian with us. We have Beth Hatch with us today. Beth, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
How many times have you gotten that kind of a librarian joke or something like that?
Oh, yeah, all the time. But I will say I've been kicked out of the library for talking.
Like the one you work at now? Or
no.
That's awkward.
Although I've been shushed as a librarian because I talk too much. So, yeah.
Do you shush frequently?
No, shushing is not a thing anymore.
I didn't think it was. So
No.
we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later. But so Beth tells us she is a frequent listener, so she must be listener number 6 of the podcast. So
And
she
she's
is
proving it because we wear red sweaters.
Uh-huh.
She came with her own matching red sweater, which we will prove with the picture.
The picture is going to be epic. So Beth is setting a new standard for our listeners. And Beth, you don't know this, but in the first segment, we did make a plea to our listeners that our very high quality looking sweaters did not turn out to be that high quality.
We had identical.
They were just
on
the
seam.
They were just the
no.
cheapest and the fastest that I could get from Amazon because I did not use city funds. I used personal funds for these. And we had identical rips on the sleeve. So we have made a call out to our listeners to find us suitably
seven listeners.
suitably de minimis.
Well, I was going to say, librarians are known for their cardigans, so
it
it
is
makes
kind
sense.
of a thing. It is
You might
kind of
have
a
some in your lost and found at the library.
Probably.
Just drag them out.
You can borrow some of mine. It's fine.
So speaking of librarians and books, we have our start bench cut ready
Ooh,
for you. But
okay.
before we set it, so what it's going to be is it's going to be book series that have been turned into movies or TV shows.
Oh, all right.
And you don't know this yet, but I was talking about this with my wife this morning.
Was she
And
approving?
before I could even say what they were, she goes, "Oh, Bridgerton? Outlander?
No, and no.
No, and no." And what makes it even funnier is I will let Darren tell you what our three are.
Okay.
I went with kind of a geeky nerd bent. 'Cause
Nice.
we were in Leadership UA together.
Yes,
and I
we
seem to
were.
remember you can talk geek.
Oh, very, very much.
So here are the 3 series. And you
Okay.
can judge them both by books and their adaptations.
Ah, okay.
Game of Thrones,
Okay.
Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
Oh, see, I told you that was a
Man.
good one.
So, and the funny part with my wife is that is certainly not in the same genre as Bridgerton and Outlander.
Yeah, no. I mean,
So you
I'm
can tell
a,
we came
yeah,
up with it.
I'm a
Yes.
huge Outlander fan, but yeah. Oh man, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and what was the other one?
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Okay, so are these going to be together, or can I do it separately? Because I have different feelings about both the books and.
There's one that there's one that you're
together.
declaring
They're
your
together.
favorite. There's
Okay.
one that
Universe
you're
of
declaring your
entertainment.
second, and then there's one that you're completely dissing and saying it has to go away.
So you have to balance. Now, after you give us your answers, you can explain. But you have
Okay.
to balance the media and the books.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm.
Because the library has movies too.
They do. Yeah. Yeah.
Gratuitous plug for
He knows he's a frequent library user. So, I would have to say I'm gonna start with Harry Potter because I think the books and the series are equally amazing. Man, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings. Okay, so I'm just gonna have to say bench Lord of the Rings because I've actually read the books and watched all the movies, but I have not read Game of Thrones. I've
Okay.
only seen the series.
Really?
So,
It's
yeah.
a good. So I read the books. That was probably one of my. I don't normally do fantasy, and I really struggle with series, and it just sucked me in when I read the books.
Yeah.
And I read the books before the series
I might
came
have
out.
to. I might have to read the books.
It is the TV show, at least the first season, maybe
Yeah.
it got a little bit worse, but the first season was as close to an adaptation of a long book without
Yeah.
cutting important plots or changing things, the characters, the
Yeah.
lines. It's all very accurate to the book.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. That is one of the things when I mean, I was started to get disappointed as the Harry Potter movies moved on because they had to cut things just for time. I mean, those books ended up getting massive.
Yeah.
But yeah, both very good.
So, Steve, even though I did okay with my
Nice
3,
one.
you did have a backup that
We
you
did have
Oh.
it. So, and you, if you've listened, you've heard occasionally we'll say, "Well, how would it change if we threw in another one?" And the other one we wanted to throw in was Captain Underpants.
which is also a series that has been turned
been made into
a
a
movie.
movie.
I'm familiar. And that's actually one of my son's favorite books. Oh man, I would say I'm cutting it though. 'Cause
It's
I
cut.
can't do it.
That's what I figured.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. But,
And to give credit to my wife, she loved the Captain Underpants ad. She was like, "Oh, I love that book," or those books.
yeah, Captain Underpants is a good one.
You talked about your kiddos. You and
Yeah.
your family moved down. What's it been? Year and a half, 2 years now.
Yeah, 2.5 years. I moved down here in October of 2020, right before
Okay.
the pandemic. I know I started
That's right.
shortly after you came.
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
much less experience working in
Right.
public service within UA than I, which a month less. Yeah.
Which by definition means way more than I have.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
She beat me by a few months.
Yeah. So
And you guys came here from somewhere.
Chagrin Falls.
Chagrin Falls.
Yeah, Chagrin Falls. Yeah, I was the director at the Perry Public Library up in Northeast Ohio, and I grew up in Cleveland area pretty much my whole life, but I came down just for this position. So, and I love it. It's a dream job.
So what made this what made this the dream job?
Well, okay, so if you hadn't read the article, it said director wooed by Upper Arlington community. And that was true. This is a wonderful community. I did a lot of research before I came down here, and when I met with the staff, the parks are gorgeous. The fact that you have parks next to each one of the library locations it's actually kind of rare. And it really makes it a wonderful community. The parks, the library, now that we're getting a new community center, very excited about that. And the engagement and the passion of the people that live in this community is unparalleled to anything that I've seen. And that is a good thing. I really enjoy the engagement. And it's one of the highest used libraries in Ohio. So, yeah.
So you mentioned this earlier, we teased
Yeah.
it. I'm a big proponent of the library because I go there all the time.
Right.
But for someone who hasn't been in a library in a while, libraries are different than what
They are.
They are on TV. Like it's not like the ghost. It's not the
We've been
Ghostbusters
fighting
thing
that
with the ghosts.
stereotype for a very long time. Yes, libraries are not quiet places. There are pockets within the library that are quiet. Our reference department in the lower level is pretty quiet. You can go down there and read newspapers and magazines. But our children's department is hopping, as you know, with your with
I
your
feel so
daughter.
bad every time. I'm old enough to want to be quiet, and Parker just loses
It's
it.
okay. It is
They had
okay.
Baby chickens hatching. She couldn't understand what was going on. It blew her mind.
Yeah, hundreds of kids.
We
and
had baby chickens hatching in the library.
Yes,
Yes.
baby chicks. We streamed it live on Facebook. They named one of them Beth Hatchling.
Yeah, there was a naming contest.
Yeah, it was very cute.
Somehow you didn't pick Parker's scribbles because she's
No, it
2
was
and she
so
can't
cute.
write. She just
Well,
scribbled with crayon, and that was her name.
One of the
suggestion, so.
children named one of the baby chicks Towel. Yeah,
Towel was a good name.
Towel's a good pick. So
But there's stuff going on that's not just books.
Yeah,
There's a
so
whole
I
play
mean,
area. Talk
yeah,
about
play
that.
area, the early learning play area that we launched last year during the pandemic, and that was completely donor funded. The community foundation was very generous. It gave us $20,000 towards that project, funded by both the UA Rotary and the Tri-Village Rotary and the Friends. And now we have this beautiful play cottage and story spinner and letter bright and just nice furniture for parents to come in and lounge. And we're actually doing another one at Lane Road. We're in the process of fundraising for that one. So
I do have one critique, though.
yeah.
So the little cars that you can sit in are really fun, but they're not so fun when your child's like, "Daddy, sit in the car next to me and read to me."
So bigger cars.
I
We
can't
need a bigger
fit in
car.
that thing. I get in there, I'm like, "Am I going to get yelled at? 'Cause it's not made for adults." But you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's
So
great, but
yeah, the
that-
2 little wooden cars, and those were actually donated a while ago. Those were before the play area. But yeah. Places to play, read. We have a listening station with a record player that you can come in and listen to vinyl.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. So
You also have movies, video games.
yeah. Oh yeah. So the video games, as Darren attests, I'm a huge nerd, and I made sure that we started a video game collection when I got here. So we have Xbox One, PS5 games, PS4, Nintendo Switch. So the parents, you don't have to go out there and spend $60 on a brand new video game. You can check it out from the library for
It's
free.
super huge. I'm not saying I've
Yeah.
checked out a bunch of video games, but it saved me a lot of money, so thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Hypothetically.
Yeah, absolutely. So, magazines are incredibly popular, and our digital collection has completely skyrocketed. Our ebooks and our streaming movies, we have streaming movies, magazines, audiobooks is another big one because you can download the app directly to your phone and listen on Bluetooth in your car. And our ebooks, that has increased by about 20% even over the pandemic. So
libraries are free. You can just get a membership and a
Yep.
card. How are you funded?
So we are funded in 2 ways. First, we get a portion of the public library fund. It's a percentage of the general revenue from the state. But really, it varies based on the economy. So if the state's doing well, we do well. And then we also have a 2 mil levy locally. And that equates about 53% of the library's funding, which we are on the ballot on May 3rd with a renewal of those 2 mills with a 1 mil increase. And that's really because we haven't seen an increase in funding for about 15 years. We've been operating on basically a static revenue, and we've done really well. We're incredibly fiscally conservative with taxpayer dollars, but we're just at the point now where we can't do it anymore.
So for normal people,
Yeah.
translate a mill into dollars.
So the increase portion is $3 per month per $100,000 of appraised value. And that's not market value, that's auditor appraised value. And the calculator is up on the Franklin County website if you want to see just how much you would be paying per your home. But it's very, very small in comparison.
I mean, it's less than a video game a year. So you
yeah.
go check out one game and you're
you're
coming
done.
ahead.
Well, and consequently, if for those of you who do use the library and you check out materials, check your receipt. At the bottom of your receipt, it shows you just how much you saved by checking out materials at the library. Last year, we saved about $38 million for people using the library just by checking materials out, using our meeting rooms.
Okay, just because
Sure.
our listeners are smarter than the average bear, but then again, there's people like you and me who
Not as
listen.
smarter than the
Say that
average
number again in terms of how much people.
$38 million in 1 year by using the library.
And
So-
that's in a pandemic year, right?
That's in a pandemic year.
When
Yeah.
folks aren't coming in and
Yeah.
checking out as much. And
Exactly. Well, and we're one of the highest utilized libraries in the state of Ohio. We're a 5-star library. We have one of the highest visits, circulation, computer use, program attendance of libraries in our budget category in the state of Ohio. We rank 3rd as a 5-star library.
Well, I have to thank you, not for the savings necessarily, but every time I check out a book instead of buying it, I save room in my shelf of my house, because I like to read a lot of books, and if you buy it every time, you suddenly get buried.
And then you have more room for Funko Pops.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. So I do have the show, what was the Queen's Gambit? I have a Funko Pop of the Queen's Gambit in my office.
Nice. See, if she can talk Funko Pop and Lord of the Rings,
I got nothing.
we're gonna have a conversation.
I got
Steve.
Totally
Steve's gonna be left out here.
So
So
can we talk about the Lakers?
No, we're going to talk about Comic-Con and what you're going as next time.
Comic-Con
sorry.
is coming up.
Sorry.
It is, yeah.
Wow.
So incredible value. The library is an incredible value, and we see about 11,000 people coming into our location every month. So yeah.
What do you think people who have never been to the library should know? Because it looks kind of intimidating if you've never been, but it's just I just walked in, it was very welcoming. They'll help you get your card.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that we like to talk about at the library is we just say start here. Whatever it is that you're looking for, whatever question is that you have, whatever it is that you're looking for, we have expert librarians that are on staff that can help you with whatever that you need. Just start at the library. We're an information hub. We are here to help people in any aspect that they have. So really, it's whatever you're looking for. If we don't have it, we can find somebody who does. So really, that would be what I would say. But yeah, definitely get a library card. It opens up a world of possibilities.
Do you still issue the cards?
We do.
Oh, yeah, I got
we
a
still
card.
have the cards.
I mean, mine is I do the electronic thing. So
Is there an electronic card?
Yeah, if you download our app, you can have you can have
Oops.
mic drop. Yeah, we have an app, and you can actually check out books on your phone. So you don't even have to use the self-check. If you're in the children's department, you just download
So what
the
you're
app.
telling me is I didn't need to take a picture of my
No,
card
you
so I can
didn't have
remember
to.
the
No, you
number and
didn't.
then look
After
at my
this,
phone and
I'll show you.
self-check?
I'll help you through it.
Oh my gosh, I've wasted so much time finding the picture on my phone, typing it in the
No.
We have programs at the senior center to help folks learn these kinds of things. If you
Sign
need
me
help
up.
getting figuring out what those app things are,
Yeah.
there's this thing called the App Store.
Yeah, the App Store. It's pretty amazing.
I did not know.
Yeah.
See, I learned something every day we do this show.
Yeah. So yeah, there's everything from research to technology help. We have technology classes, same as senior center. I think the next one that we have coming up is a PowerPoint, how to use PowerPoint precisely. And we do one-on-ones with our technology librarians. Anything that you need help with, if you just set up a one-on-one, whatever you want to learn, they'll walk you through it.
There's tons of stuff that you have. Like there's weird things about looking at archives of yearbooks and stuff. If
Oh,
someone
yeah.
just wants to kind of poke around and figure out what kind of stuff's out there, where should they go? Just the website?
Yeah, ualibrary.org is our website. There's so much information there. Whether you're a reader or you're a tech person or you're a researcher. Yeah, if you want to research some embarrassing yearbook photos, we have those all on the UA archives.
So we do have several of our council members that graduated from UA High School, right?
Oh,
So
we
we
can
can
find
go and pull
Yep.
their yearbook pictures.
Just do a search. Yeah, go to ualibrary.org.
We
look
did.
at the
So
archives.
so
Yeah.
what we'll have to do is those who don't reach out and say something to us about
This
this, which
episode.
means that they haven't listened to the podcast, we might have to go research.
If you
this.
are on council and you went to Upper Arlington High School and you don't want us to pull your picture, call us within a week, and that'll prove that you listened. Otherwise, we're finding it. Beth,
Awesome.
I love what's going on in the library, but you're also, as the head librarian, kind of the arbiter of all things cool in pop culture and books. So do you
Yeah.
have any recommendations you want to spit out for our listeners?
Oh man. So I will say I wish I had time to read fiction anymore. But I will put in a plug for our author visit coming up. We have Margaret Atwood coming on June 15th.
The Margaret Atwood?
The Margaret Atwood. It's a partnership with all us and some of the other libraries who wrote Handmaid's Tale. She'll be June 15th. The tickets go on sale May 1st.
That's insane. That's like
Yeah.
super huge.
Yeah.
Didn't she come out with like a sequel book or something?
She did. I don't know what the title of it is.
But it was like way later.
Yeah.
Like she released it like
Yeah.
a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're very excited for that author visit. So.
And she has written a bunch of other really good stuff. It's been
Oh,
a
yeah.
while since I read it. You know, she's Canadian, and this is part of my being a Canada-phile.
Yeah.
Your favorite city is Toronto.
It is.
I was gonna say I listened to that. I was kind of yelling in my office, going like, "Yeah, Toronto," because I just came from there. I took my kids on vacation for spring break
Spring break to Toronto.
to Toronto.
Nothing like
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
So I'm not going to count on the guy who doesn't know there's an app to tell me what
cool cities are.
isn't cool.
Fair.
So you said one of the things you said about kind of your theme being start here.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've learned since I came to the city is how much it's not just about books where people will come to start with
Yeah.
the library, but if people are struggling with just about anything in this community,
Yeah.
the library is one of the first places they'll go. They'll go to ask, how do I get help with, I'm struggling with this with my kids, I'm struggling with that with my
Yeah.
kids. And I think one of the things I want to thank you and your entire team for is the care with which and the respect with which you treat all of our residents. And you really are kind of a first stop for people who are struggling
Yeah.
and who are coming in and trying to figure out, how do I improve my situation?
Yeah.
And the library is a huge part of that.
Yeah, thank you. And I would echo that. I mean, when I got into libraries, I am a reader. I love reading, but it's really about people. It's about helping people, getting them the information that they need. It's such a wonderful and fulfilling and rewarding career because of that. And that's exactly right. Anything that you're looking for, whether you're a job seeker or you need help with health information or tax information, research or resources for your children, early literacy, we're here for everything that you could possibly need.
And video games.
And video games, because it's all about, it's explore, gather, grow. So we are a place to gather. Anybody can come in and use the library. We've seen a ton of people coming in that are working from home now, come in and use our Wi-Fi. They can be there all day and it's fine. We have refreshments and we have, copying and faxing and printing. So we're really there for everybody. It's a wonderful place.
What do you have planned? You mentioned a little bit about the play areas and the other libraries, but what's next for the library? What exciting things, big picture, are we talking about?
The levy.
Let's assume the levy successfully passes. What will that allow
I
you to
can't do anything past
Nothing.
the
So-
levy. Yeah.
So, I'll go super serious
Yeah.
real quick. Paint a picture for me if the levy passes. Paint a picture
Yeah.
for me if the levy doesn't pass.
So because the levy is over half of our revenue, it would be catastrophic if we were to lose that revenue. Imagine our library the size of Bexley, because that would be the budget we would have. We would not have the same library that we have now. I am optimistic, though, because all of our operating levies have passed historically. We did have a bond issue in 2009 that failed, but that was for a large capital project that was during a recession, and it makes sense why that didn't go. But if it does pass, we have substantial maintenance that we need to do on our buildings. If you were here in this community yesterday and you saw that downpour, every time it rains, my heart stops because I know that there's water pouring in down through the roof at the main library, and we just have to start putting out our buckets.
I mean, that's not a good sign when you deal in books.
Correct.
Paper and rainwater
paper
don't
and rain,
mix.
not a great thing.
And a lot of electronics, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, our lower level of the reference department, the year after I came, flooded. We had I want to say about 6 inches of water below there, and had to struggle to put in a trench drain. But we still have drainage issues. We still have to replace the roof. The Lane Road elevator is down. That's a $200,000 project, and we just don't have the revenue for these major capital issues. So numero uno is fixing all of the things that need fixed in our buildings, and then being able to plan for the future. Now, I don't know what that's going to look like. We are going to be probably doing some feasibility studies on what the community needs its library to be, but we will always still hold on to the tradition of the printed word. We will always have books, magazines, and things like that for people to check out. That's the core of what we do, and a place to be for families, children, seniors.
All right, so that was serious enough.
That was serious.
That was awfully deep. Yeah. We were talking about video games and Lord of the Rings, and then we went to the existence of the written word.
Yeah, right.
So,
Very passionate.
what you talked about, how much of it you're a self-described geek.
Yeah.
What is the geekiest guilty pleasure that you have?
Probably dressing up for Comic-Con. Yeah.
Yes, Steve. This side of the table is getting cooler.
Yeah, I'm a frequent attendee of the Geek Fest, Comic-Con, and so I'm always trying. But there are actually very few blonde superheroes. You would
Really?
Yeah, I
Carol
mean,
Danvers.
yeah,
Captain
I
Marvel?
mean, so I was Captain Marvel one year, Supergirl another year. Trying to think what else. Oh, and my next outfit is going to be Daenerys Targaryen. For the next, so
See, Game of Thrones was a good pick.
Wait a minute. Oh, whoa. Time out.
yeah,
You benched him.
I know, but that's
And you can't dress up like Daenerys Targaryen until you've read the books.
I know,
You're
but-
a librarian getting ready to dress up like Daenerys Targaryen. You haven't read the books.
I know
What?
I haven't read the books, but I love the show. So yeah,
Are you going to go to San Diego Comic-Con?
no, I Cleveland. So
Just saying, San Diego's the granddaddy of them all.
I know I haven't been.
Put it on your bucket list.
Oh yeah.
Is San Diego the big one? It's not like in Vegas or something like that?
No, it's in San Diego. It's the
That's
biggest.
cool.
I didn't realize
Followed probably by Salt Lake City and New York, I think. are the
Oh
next two
man,
big ones.
I'll have to put that on my calendar because I invest a lot of money into these costumes. So
You have to realize, Steve, Vegas would be a great place, but the geeks such as myself who go to Comic-Con, they go in there and they don't leave. So
yeah.
you don't need
You're-
casinos.
You're not
It's-
outside. No,
There's nothing to do but go
No,
into this place and sit there.
absolutely.
So you could do it
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah, Comic-Con and dressing up for that kind of stuff is a lot of fun.
Is the library going to do anything for Comic-Con?
I've been trying to get them to do like a cosplay type of thing, but I'm a little bit more nerdy than some.
The rest of them are like, man, I don't know what you're getting at here.
I think I'm a little weird because I'm like, hey, you guys, if you have a superhero party, I'm there. They're like, Beth, it's for like 6-year-olds. I'm like, that's okay. and what's your point? Yeah, we had our Halloween thing, and that I dressed up as my Supergirl, and it was great because some of the little kids were getting their picture taken with me, so it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
That's a lot of fun.
yeah, super geeks. So I have to ask, since I'm a,
She's
Whoa,
turning
whoa.
the tables
I
on
gotta,
us.
I gotta turn it around.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Okay.
This has never come up before. We're gonna
Do we plead the fifth on this?
point of order. Are we
Easy,
Are we
easy.
going to allow this? Yeah.
Yeah,
No, go
come
ahead.
on. So
been a good guest. We'll
Yeah,
allow it.
so as a librarian, I always ask, what's your favorite book?
Oh, it's easy. Steve, you can go first.
No, go ahead.
Jurassic Park.
Really?
Yes.
All right.
You know, I don't really have a favorite book. I am not one who kind of latches on to a book.
Okay.
I can do that with movies, but if you ask me what my favorite book is, I don't know. If you ask me kind of
Genre?
I tend toward kind of nonfiction historical biography stuff. So, and there's a ton of great ones, but I don't have one that's like, but
Yeah.
I will say, as I said earlier, the last really good series that really kind of sucked me in,
Yeah.
was Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay. So now I have to put that on my list. Okay, so I've got Game of Thrones and I got San Diego Comic-Con.
Have you read Seabiscuit in the historical nonfiction kind of thing?
I have not.
It's the most surprising book out of my normal genre that I like. So it'd be up high on my list.
Yeah.
If you haven't read it, it's very good.
Yeah.
You would
Very
not think
cool.
you would care about a horse from like a long time ago because like I don't watch horse racing, but you're like I really like this horse.
Well, and
I'm rooting for him.
A good one like into thin air. Is again, it's a great way to tell a story and weave a bunch of other stuff in.
Yeah.
It was, what was it, The Madman in the White City or whatever it was about Chicago.
Oh, Devil in the White City?
Devil in the White City.
Yeah.
I mean, was another one where it's like you're telling.
Yeah, that's a great book.
You're using a story of the moment to tell history. That just always kind
Yeah,
of
that's.
sucks
I
me
mean,
in.
that's one of the things that really got me into reading was reading historical fiction because it made history come alive. It
Like
wasn't just
Outlander,
facts. I love
accurate-
Outlander. Well, yeah, no,
accurately-
time travel with the
accurate
stones.
historical fiction.
Yeah, no, but I mean, so I will say, I mean, one of the most powerful books I ever read, which I just actually bought it from my brain. I had to own it, was The Devil's Arithmetic. Have you read that? It was in 6th grade, and it was historical fiction around the Holocaust. And it was powerful, incredibly powerful. And I remember reading that as a kid and just devouring historical fiction after that.
So then you went back and bought it recently.
Yeah.
You liked it that much?
I couldn't find my copy. I had a copy, and couldn't find it. So
I have 3 copies of Jurassic Park if anybody wants to borrow it.
see, I have 3 copies of Time Traveler's Wife. So if anybody wants a copy of that,
I've read that. It's good.
it's a really
not
good
my
book.
kind of. I like the time travel part, but it's really more about the relationship.
Yeah, it's more about the relationship, and it was the first book I read that was multiple perspective, so told from her perspective and his, which was the movie did not do it justice. So
No, the movie was pretty weak sauce.
yeah,
So that would have been on the cut list.
yeah,
And it's not a series. Like they're like,
no,
we're done.
Yeah,
There's
right.
no Time Traveler's Wife 2.
No.
Time Traveler's second wife.
He went back even further.
Even
Yes,
further.
you got another one.
Got another one.
Oh man,
On that note,
yeah.
You got your final questions.
oh
Don't forget.
shoot, I almost made you hit the beat button. Final questions.
Sure.
What do you love about UA, and what would you change?
Wow. I would say what I love about UA is can I say the library?
You can. I guess we would expect you to.
yeah.
That would be
Yeah, but I would say the community. I've really gotten involved when I moved here. I'm on the programming committee for Tri-Village Chamber. I'm involved in UA Rotary. I'm a member of the Wednesday Literary Club. I love being involved in this community. I've met so many amazing people, and my life is just so full. It was very hard moving down here and being away from my family, but I've made a new family, so I feel incredibly connected. And that's one of the reasons I love this podcast, the Won't You Be My Neighbor, because that's exactly what this feeling is. It's a neighborhood, it's a community, and people really, really, care about one another, and I love that.
Dude, she said she loved the podcast. I was like, very subtle. Gotta highlight that.
Plug.
she can come back.
Yeah, you're
have her
welcome
back.
back as a guest.
And I don't know what I would change. I would love to see more opportunities for people to come together and hear other points of view. I think that sometimes we're insulated or don't get exposure to other people, and I think that would be a really wonderful thing to do.
It's interesting you say that. Part of the reason we wanted to do the podcast, and I appreciate what you said about the, getting the whole "Won't You Be Our Neighbor" thing, is one of the things I love about listening to podcasts, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, is it allows you to feel like you're part of somebody else's conversation without do it where if you fall asleep, they don't know you're actually falling asleep while it happens, which is I think happens a lot with our podcast.
Yeah.
And but it's one of the things we're trying to do is really allow there to be more conversations in the community in a different way. So
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you
I know
for having
Darren
me.
really appreciates it because he
Finally got to geek out a little bit.
got to totally geek out, and I'm twiddling my thumbs.
Steve's got it buttoned down. It got a little bit esoteric when you started talking about historical fiction. And I was like, yeah.
I can geek out. I mean, we talked about arugula last time, so
Steve geeks out of arugula and history, and the rest of us have comic books.
All right, comic books. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
So, all right. Well, thanks for coming on,
Thank
Beth.
you. Yeah.
And I would encourage everybody. What it is, May 3rd.
Yeah, May 3rd.
May
is the
3rd.
election.
Get out there and vote. We are all public employees, so we can't
Not
tell you
gonna
how to
tell you
vote.
how to
I can't tell you how to vote. I can just share with you when the election is and that we're on the ballot.
And that you've shared some very important information about
Yes.
that makes a fairly compelling case.
Yes.
So thank you very much for coming
Thank
on,
you.
and have a good day.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Podcast.